Hi, welcome back. A bit of an unusual one. I was asked the other day my opinions on the Andrew Tate situation, because I put up a couple of sort of comical shorts on it, and I'd made a video about the kind of general consensus and stuff that was going on the internet about that situation, but it wasn't really specifically about his legal situation. And a couple of people were asking what my opinions were, and you might wonder, well, you know, what does this guy know about it? Well, I did spend 23 years in the security sector, and during that time I was probably arrested over 50 times, and I've got a clean criminal record, you'll be pleased to know. So you know, it wasn't because I was a criminal and I've come out of prison or anything like that. But it was just the nature of some of the work that I was doing. I lived with a solicitor. He was one of my best friends, and separate to that I had my own personal solicitor for all the things that I dealt with at work, and that was a regular thing. So I know a little bit about how those sort of things work. You know, I've done my fair amount of time sitting in cells waiting for solicitors to battle it out and wondering what's happening. And so I think I've got a reasonable opinion on the law in general, not Romanian law, but we can make some sort of assumptions around that. So first of all, why was the guy arrested? So there's two ways of thinking about that. Number one, he was arrested because he was guilty of a crime or multiple crimes, and they have a lot of evidence on him that they had already gathered. That's the normal way it happens, you know, that evidence is gathered first, especially for ongoing crimes like the one he's charged with, that is something of a long-term investigation. You would expect there to have been evidence gathered, and then based on the strength of that evidence he would then be arrested so that he could maybe corroborate some of that evidence. The police are obviously trained to try and get people to back that up, you know, by kind of grassing themselves up, making a statement that sort of either shows that they're guilty, or the police can line up with some evidence and some other statements to show that they're not telling the truth, and that can be used against them in court. So that's one thing. The other thing would be that the country he's in is incredibly corrupt, the legal system is corrupt, and he is incredibly wealthy. He no doubt mixes with some, I mean, he says himself he mixes with some sort of shady characters over there, you know, to do with his casinos and all that kind of thing. From what he describes, they're kind of mafia guys. So it would be fair to say that you know, he's immersed quite deeply in some pretty serious corruption, and even if he's not guilty of that himself, he's certainly well surrounded by it. If that's the case, and you're on the internet talking about the vast sums of money you've accumulated, the people in those kind of places watching that will become jealous, and they will want your money, especially if you're a foreigner and you're in their country and you're bragging about, you know, you can do what you want basically, and you've got all this cash sat around. At some point someone's going to think, well, not for very long, I'm going to take that. So that's the other possibility. And I've heard, you know, opinions on both from various people on the internet. Now, as time's gone by, he's been arrested. So if possibility one were true, being as the eyes of the world are currently on this situation, so although the Romanian system is quite corrupt, they've also now got everyone watching, so it's very difficult to be openly corrupt when the world's media are recording everything you're doing, you know. So I think the idea that they could just kind of find him guilty with no evidence, nick all his money and chuck him in a cell somewhere and no one would ever hear of him again. That's probably not going to happen. They really need to prove that he's done something so that they could take what they want off him. If that's the case, then my question is, why have they not produced any evidence thus far? Because his solicitors have certainly asked for them to produce some and they haven't. The world's media would like to see some, you know, certainly everyone would be interested if they even made a statement to say that they had quite a large amount of evidence on him. They've now had a long time, so not only has he been already in prison for I think the first 30 days and now he's in for another, but previous to that they had been investigating him for several months, that they had declared that they had been investigating, and you know, spending quite a lot of money on the investigation. It wasn't a small profile investigation, so you would think, you know, with surveillance techniques and digital surveillance and all the stuff that goes on there, that they would have some pretty compelling evidence against the guy. And if they did, not only, I mean, they wouldn't have to tell everyone that they had that, you know, there's no compulsion for them to do that, but they could have charged him by now. You know, they wouldn't need to be still digging around for another 30 days. You know, that tends to happen when people haven't got any evidence. If they have a whole string of evidence to back up the claims they're making, then they can stop wasting their time and money and get on with the juicy bit and get him charged and dealt with. But they haven't done that, so that's interesting. So that kind of leads me to think maybe more down the corrupt position. So if they, let's play it out this way, if they were a corrupt system and they had, maybe they had had a couple of spurious claims, you know, made by jilted ladies that had worked for him, because I think by his own admission, you know, he had various ladies working for him in webcam businesses and stuff. And look, I don't agree with what he's doing there. I don't think that's a great way to make money, but we're not talking here about my morals personally and what I agree and don't agree with morally. We're talking about if someone broke the law or not. So really my opinion on his business practice is not worth a dime, you know, that's personal to me. So there may have been ladies came forward and maybe what they said was a little bit dubious, and they thought, great, you know, we'll seize on this, and this is the leverage we're going to use to kind of action this investigation, and then we can seize this guy's money. Because I'm damn sure in Romania, you know, if he was a guy that hardly had any money and a couple of Romanian women turned up at a police station and said, oh, I've been working for this guy in a webcam business, you know, and he didn't pay me, or, you know, he wasn't very nice to me and he sort of kicked me out, or he didn't like me going out with my friends or something like that, the police would probably laugh, say something incredibly rude to her. You know, that country is not known for its political correctness and forthright legal system. It is known for the exact opposite of that. You know, in fact, it's known for the police probably more than likely being involved in some of those businesses and being just as unpleasant to those women as he's alleged to have been. So if that's the case and they're using that as leverage, then they're going to arrest first and then desperately ask for evidence later, and maybe based on some of the rumours they've heard, they think that they had a good chance of finding some evidence. And this is it sounds to me a bit like the Iraq war, you know, that you go in first with guns blazing and then you look for the weapons of mass destruction, and you still look for the weapons, and you still look for the weapons, and the whole world's watching saying, well, show us these weapons, and you know, you're there for a long time and you still haven't got any weapons of mass destruction. And that seems to be the case at the moment. They don't have anything. I think they would love to, you know, show us all that they had some vast amount of evidence on the guy. At the end of the day, this is all assumption. You know, it's only my opinion. I don't know how that will play out. Maybe they are playing a really, really clever game and they're just keeping everything under wraps, and then right at the end, you know, they're going to announce, right, we're arresting him, and they've got like the biggest list of evidence you've ever seen in your life. I just find that doubtful at the moment. So that's my opinion. I don't know if the guy did it or not, but I do find some of their methods unusual, and like most people, I'll be watching the situation to see what happens. It's certainly polarising. I know, you know, half the population want to see the guy locked up because he either just annoys them with his boasting, or they believe him to be a misogynist and an unpleasant character, and the other half, probably young and male, would like to see him freed immediately, and they believe he's a kind of voice of the people. So you know, it's a 50-50 split pretty much on that of what people want to see out of it. So I think that's why it's garnered so much attention, and that's why people like me are making videos about it, because I certainly wouldn't normally make videos about the news otherwise. Right, thanks a lot guys, take care, see you soon.